a very good morning. Welcome along to Ireland AM right here on Virgin Media One.
I'm just a giant floating head with massive hair. That's all I am next to you. You're just so colourful.
Well, you're not going to miss me this morning, that's sure.
It is Wednesday, December the 7th. And what it says on my auto cue, it says, Thibaut the Dreamboat is back. Did you write that this morning when you came in?
That's auto cue.
Oh my God.
Auto cue. Just say what you think.
We're on the countdown. Only 18 more days left until the big day, everybody. That's it.
Yes, well, listen, it is great to be back. Had a couple of days at home, had to look after the kids, came back this morning, and Christmases.
Do you forget that we had all of this?
Hit me this morning. I'm going to have to get McDee's Garden Centre in Galway to decorate my house.
Yeah, they did
pretty
a
impressive, isn't
lovely job. And if you like anything on the set, you can check out McDee's.ie. Now, what do we got this morning?
Coming up this morning, the weather outside is freezing. Will it snow? Weather Oracle Gerry Murphy will be revealing if we're set to have a white Christmas.
Yep. And after a 4-year struggle to conceive, a little bit later on, Richie Sadlier and his wife, they're expecting their first child in the new year, and Richie is going to be joining us to share their fertility story, and it's a fantastic story.
Chatting with the World Cup as well. It seems everything is ripe for a musical these days. It's going to be Ireland AM, the musical next. The toy show is getting a musical makeover. We're finding out even more when we meet two of the stars, Bridgerton's Jack Beamish and DJ Callum.
Sammy Sausages would be ready to go with that, wouldn't he? That's what we need to do. Alan, are you ready to set up an Ireland AM musical?
Oh, why don't we? Should we have Dreamboat already? Sure, we can't lose.
We'll have him going around.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yes, I'm in here this morning, and we are going to, a little later on, violin sensation Vladimir will be here with some festive melodies. Catherine Leyden's in the kitchen making Christmas shortbread, and stylist Justine King has a range of looks for any occasion for Christmas. Now, Deric is out and about this morning. Deric, where are you this morning?
Yes, good morning, Adam. We're coming to you live here from Ballinasloe in County Galway this morning. Very cold night last night. A frosty, icy and a foggy start out there today. But some really nice December sunshine on the menu out there once again for the 7th of the month, with snow on the way through the Midlands later on tonight and into tomorrow as well. But as you mentioned, Al, we're here in East County Galway this morning because we're off to head out the road to visit the East Galway and Midlands Cancer Support Unit to provide vital services here within the local community. So we're going to be catching up with some of the team here on the ground a little bit later on this morning. Guys, back at base, Ireland AM the musical. I'd definitely sign up for that one. I want one behind the scenes though, with the gallery or the camera crew as well.
Imagine how good he'd love to get his chance to sing on it. Next year, Deric. Next Christmas, that's what we're doing.
Continually in budgie smugglers jumping into the sea, like a fake sea as it goes by. That would be happening. I want to see that. Now, lots coming up with the show, as you said, but right now let's go over to the Virgin Media News Hub and say hello for the first time this morning to Anne O'Donnell.
Thanks, Maureen. Good morning. Well, the Road Safety Authority is advising all road users to prepare for hazardous conditions on roads and on footpaths, as Met Éireann has issued a warning for low temperatures and ice. Severe frosts and icy patches are expected from tonight and into the weekend for all of Ireland. The amount of waste Ireland generates continued to increase in 2020. That's according to a new report from the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA says it will now be difficult to reach our 2025 EU targets.
Despite the reduce, reuse, recycle slogan, we're continuing to generate more rubbish every year. The National Waste Statistics Report for 2020 reveals a number of worrying trends. Municipal waste from households and commercial sources increased from 3.1 million tonnes in 2019 to 3.2 million the following year. Packaging waste exceeded 1 million tonnes for the 4th year in a row, and we remain reliant on export markets to treat waste. The report shows 16% of municipal waste went to landfill and 64% of households had access to a brown bin. There were some decreases in 2020. Hazardous waste was down 4% and demolition waste decreased in line with the drop in construction during COVID. However, the report warns that targets for 2025 and beyond will be challenging for us to meet, including municipal waste recycling, plastic packaging and weed collection rates. Trish Laverty, Virgin Media News.
The US President Joe Biden has congratulated Democrat Raphael Warnock for his win in Georgia's Senate runoff race. Well, Democrats have been celebrating the result, which gives the party an outright majority in the Senate for the rest of Biden's term. Two Trump companies have been found guilty of criminal tax fraud. The charges against the Trump Corporation and the Trump Payroll Corporation were connected to a 15-year scheme where top executives failed to report and pay taxes on compensation. The defence team is now planning to appeal the verdict.
We'll certainly be appealing, of course, and a novel and really interesting issue are developed during the trial. Obviously, the definition of in behalf of what that means. And we filed a lot of papers, the defense team, about what those words mean. They were enacted in 1965. The judge recognized that there was not a lot of definition on that at all. And certainly that will be one of the arguments we will make.
Back home, the Health Service Executive is examining whether Strep A was linked to the death of a 4-year-old in Ireland. It comes after health officials in Northern Ireland confirmed a 5-year-old died from the bacterial infection on Monday. There is concern cases of the contagious bacteria could rise here in the coming weeks. However, speaking on The Tonight Show last night, Professor Kingston Mills says Strep A is a very treatable illness.
I think the very important point to say is this is a treatable disease. It can be treated with antibiotics. Penicillin works against this bacteria if it's caught early enough. I mean, it completely cures it. So it's not like some other diseases where there are resistant bacteria, like Staphylococcus, for example, where it's much more difficult to treat it because of resistant strains. Streptococcus is treatable with antibiotics. It's a matter of diagnosing it and treating the patient as early as possible. So that's the reassuring thing. So the key thing is to make sure that the child gets to the GP and gets diagnosed and gets the antibiotic if it's appropriate.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And a very good morning to you at home, or if you're indeed streaming online on the player. We're coming to you live here from Ballinasloe. We're in East County Galway this morning, and coming up over the next wee while, in fact, we're off to visit the East Galway Midlands Cancer Support Unit. We're going to be chatting to some of the team there on the ground, so that's all to come over the next wee while. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather. Let's pull back the curtains now on your Wednesday morning. Rona McIntyre on cameras, and I have to say it was a very cold night out there last night. Still quite frosty, misty and foggy now under the cover of the darkness at the moment. Showers through parts of North Donegal in through Fermanagh and into County Tyrone. But as we're holding mainly settled now in that light to moderate northerly airflow. Now right across today for the 7th of December, not a bad one in store. In fact, very similar to yesterday, as that sun rises, it'll help burn off that mist and fog and melt away that ice. And in fact, a pretty decent day in store. Some nice December rays on the cards now. A couple of problems kicking in across the northwest, where we will see some wintry showers towards the back end of the day in top valleys again on the chilly side out there this Wednesday, 3 to 7 degrees. Finally then tonight we will see that rain, sleet and then snow through parts of Ulster. That's going to by about dawn tip down in a southerly direction, so we're going to get a taster of Sneachta, especially through parts of the Midlands, expected into tomorrow. Again, frost, ice and fog will be a problem as we slip our way into tomorrow morning, and another very, very cold night in store tonight into tomorrow, with values back to -4 to +1 degrees. So that's how we're shaping up here in Ballinasloe and Galway at the moment. We'll catch you again back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: Vigilance urged over increase in a rare form of Strep A. Parents and health staff have been urged to be vigilant for signs of the bacterial infection Strep A after a 5-year-old girl died of a severe form of the illness in Northern Ireland, and a possible link to the death of another child in the state was under investigation.
The Irish Independent, the Examiner and the Mirror all lead with that same story. Ireland's Strep A alert.
Gang gun mayhem is the top story of the Herald. Gardaí were on high alert yesterday after a night of gangland gun attacks in which one man died and 2 others narrowly escaped with their lives.
The Sun leads with the same story. Whack dealer was a marked man. A drug dealer killed outside his house had been warned his life was under threat.
The Star also goes with that story. Blasted 8 times over feud. Dad of 1 murdered in driveway after drugs row.
And finally, the Mail goes with teachers face ban on career breaks. The Education Minister is set to crack down on career breaks for teachers, which allow them to work in tax-free countries in a bid to tackle the acute shortage of staff. And we'll be discussing that a little bit later on.
Oh, we want to hear from you on that one. I've got a feeling that, because I know a good few friends that definitely still have their jobs here but work in tax-free countries.
And you can see why. I mean, what the benefits and whatever they get. Yeah, absolutely.
0896 111 111. Now, Tommy, can you see into your Tommy Bow Dream Boat crystal ball and tell us, are we going to have a white Christmas?
I think we are. The snow is coming. We're going to find out all about it. We've got Met Éireann's Gerry Murphy coming with us next to tell us, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. See you in a few minutes.
Oh, that's lovely.
Welcome back. Now it's time to wrap up warm this week as temperatures are expected to fall below zero in the coming days.
Can't find my puffer. It was freezing yesterday. You know, you're like, where's my puffer? Here to talk to us about the severe cold snap is Met Éireann meteorologist Gerry Murphy. Gerry, this is when we all call you in as superheroes to talk to us about the weather. What's going on? This happens in Ireland all the time, right? This cold weather. It's not unusual.
We haven't had as cold spells in the past few years, and we've had a very mild autumn. So it's a bit of a shock to the system that it's getting so cold. But it's not getting any colder than what you could expect occasionally during an Irish winter. And really, what's happening is in the last couple of months, really, the air has predominantly come from the south and it's been very mild. For the next week, really, the air comes from the north, and so it's going to be, and it is December, so it's going to be very cold.
Listen, the question I want to know, is it going to snow? Are we going to have...
Straight in there. Straight in.
Are we expected to see snow? Are we going to even have a white Christmas? Is it too early to tell?
Well, way too early to tell on the white Christmas, Tommy. You're losing the run of yourself there.
That's it, he's straight in.
It's the decorations, it just comes over me here, yeah.
But in the shorter term, because it's going to get so cold, now what we're going to see really is from tonight, temperatures getting down to -4, and tomorrow then, by day, the temperatures will only be between 0 and 3 or 4 degrees. So it will be a very cold day, and then there are showers coming down from the north, and some of those will turn to snow, possibly in parts of the sleet or snow, possibly in parts of the Midlands. And then as we go through the weekend, especially on hills, mountains, the Wicklow Mountains and the Dublin Mountains tomorrow night certainly could get some falls of snow, and then up in the north of the country as well, Donegal, Derry, that sort of area. Occasionally some snow, but not a massive snow event by any means. Just showers, with some of them possibly turning to snow.
Okay, so and you mentioned sleet there. Will there be hailstones? That sort of
with sleet, rain, sleet, and possibly some snow.
Okay, that's what we're sticking with.
So what are the kind of warnings? People out driving at the minute. Is black ice is obviously a big issue. People driving early in the mornings, for instance?
Yes, really from tonight. Now, the temperatures did get down to -3 last night. So in the Midlands at the moment, there is frost and possibly some ice. But then tonight will be a much colder night. And then with those kind of showers moving down, the ground staying very cold then through tomorrow. So black ice is a possibility. And black ice can be very dangerous because really black ice is the rain falling on the ground and it then turning to ice, so you can't see it. It's not white, so consequently it can be quite dangerous. So really, roads and paths, very cold conditions. So ice expected at times as well, and then any wintry kind of showers. You will find that the visibility as you drive then will be reduced as well. So people should take great care when they're driving, both in the mornings and then at any time during those wintry showers.
And because we've got the ability now for an awful lot of people to work from home, I'm assuming like the weather warm, you'll be lashing out the kind of warnings from Met Éireann to be like, if you can work from home, stay at home rather than going on the road.
Well, we'll issue the weather warnings. Now there is on gov.ie Be Winter Ready booklet. That's a publication for all aspects of planning for severe weather in the winter. And so that's and a very useful document for people to look up and to get good information on how to prepare for cold weather, any form of weather over the winter. And the other thing, of course, is to check met.ie, because that's where the warnings are updated. And the warnings will be updated day on day, because it's quite difficult to forecast specifically for any snow or locations in the longer term, which means that the warnings are updated in the shorter term.
I mean, it's a bit of cold weather. I kind of think we're going a bit maybe over. Like, is this unusual? I mean, you said this is the first time we've really had a cold snap like this, maybe in 3 years.
Yeah.
But in Ireland, I mean, like, it's nothing new.
It's not exceptional. It only becomes a real significant issue if it lingers for a long time. In 2009, 2010, we had similar situation where the air came down from the north, but it stayed with us for a few weeks. And then as time goes on, then it can potentially become more and more disruptive.
Okay.
But currently, basically, it's a cold spell with sharp frost at night and some wintry showers. But that's where it's at the moment.
And obviously there is a worry because of heating costs for older people, you know, to keep the heating on if they need it, and the homeless people. It's a huge worry for county councils around the country to try to get that situation sorted. You see this running into, is it next week that this is going?
Yeah,
at the
currently
moment?
it looks at up to about Tuesday, and then it gets quite uncertain after that. But certainly for the rest of the week, over the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, cold weather in store, sharp frost at night, and some wintry showers.
Excuse not to go out running.
In terms of like climate change, because this is like it is definitely getting warmer. Like I still see even plants outside my house still have the flowers on them, which is unusual for this time of year. Like, is this cold snap? Like, is it? Have you sensed that it's warmer? Like, the winter's not as harsh as they have been.
No, when I was growing up in County Monaghan, like yourself,
it was pretty
Tommy,
cold there.
It was pretty cold there at times, but I remember the frost.
We're going to start reciting Patrick Kavanagh now, the two of them.
Absolutely. I used to go for get a school bus, and there'd be many more frosty mornings than there would be these days. Over the years, the temperature in Ireland has increased in line with other parts of Northern Europe, but it's the minimum temperature that has increased, which means we're getting fewer frosts in general. Now, that doesn't say that we're not going to get cold spells like this, but overall we have fewer frosts. And the significant thing about this year is it has been so mild that the last 6 years over Ireland have been very warm overall. And this year has been so mild so far that unless December is very cold, it will actually be the warmest year on record in Ireland.
Really?
Unless December is very cold. So this cold, if this cold spell extends through December, then it'll bring it back down. But barring that, it's one of the warmest years we've had.
Gerry Murphy, are you walking around your house or the Med Éireann office with a hot water bottle? Because everyone inside in this place is. You're going. It's freezing.
Well, it is cold enough outside, all right. Yeah.
It is cold. He's given us it's cold enough outside. That's
is it going to snow though? Like, are we going to get a good snowfall?
No.
Are you going to get a good? That's the point. A good. You
so
will.
If it lingers for longer, will that bring on more snow? What brings on the snow then?
For the snow, you need the air to be very cold and the ground to be very cold as well for it to really, really stick for an extended period of time. So are we going to get snow? Yes, in places at night and on hills, mountains, etc. Parts of the Midlands tomorrow, some snow, but not very much.
Genuinely felt like he was talking to a politician there going, Gerry, are we going to get snow?
I want to know.
That's what's going to happen.
Can I get the sleigh out?
Leave Gerry alone. Meteorologist Gerry Murphy from Med Éireann, thank you so much for coming into us this morning. We appreciate it.
Kids are going to be devastated.
Of course, you know what to do. We love talking about the weather. If you want to chat to us about the weather, 0896 111 111.
Oh dear, yeah. If you want to see the white Christmas.
Now, still to come from Wordle 2, Johnny Depp will be finding out Google's top searches of 2022.
Plus, looking at the top stories making this morning's newspapers. Ireland ends back in a few minutes.
Welcome back. Now, deep dive into this morning's news stories. Jack Horgan-Jones is here from the Irish Times.
Yes, Jack, let's start off with our first story, the health story with Strep A. Really quite frightening, actually, for people out there with children.
Very frightening, yes. And something that we kind of saw in the UK over the last few days, where there have been several deaths of children linked to this infection. And now it seems to be spreading over here, or at least the detections are
actually older people as well. So it's
older people as well, yeah, it's true,
yeah.
A lot of the headline-grabbing stuff stuff, quite rightly, is in relation to paediatric cases and children who get very ill and in some cases unfortunately die, but it does affect older people as well. And in fact, I think that when you drill into the data that is available here on this invasive form of strep A, of the 55 cases that have been detected in Ireland so far, there have been 2 deaths, and they have been in older people. There's a death in the northeast of the country of a child, which is being investigated, but hasn't actually been fully established. And of course, there was that tragic death of that 5-year-old girl in Belfast yesterday. So it is unsurprisingly taking over all of the front pages, I think, of the broadsheets anyway, this morning, with a variety of of ways to, I suppose, prepare yourself. You know, what to look out for, when to seek more medical attention, because this is obviously a story that will set parental nerves jangling up and down the country. It is worth noting as well, though, I was looking on Twitter, and the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, or Professor rather, Breda Smith, she was saying that overall levels of strep A infection around the country are below pre-pandemic levels. So it's important not to totally begin to panic while also, of course, remaining vigilant.
I'm just reading here at the minute, so it's talking about the different symptoms you can get, but even when to see a GP. So strep throat is different from a regular sore throat, and pain can come very, very quickly. Symptoms include pain from swallowing, fever, red and swollen tonsils. But for people out there, sore throats at the minute, common colds,
it'd be easy to find someone who hasn't had one, exactly.
But the big thing at the minute is we know the health system is already under pressure.
Exactly.
So then there's going to be a lot of parents out there with children who are wondering, should I ring the GP? When do I need to get in touch?
Exactly. And look, I think that, you know, some of the advice here, it kind of can feel a little bit unhelpful, but like it is often towards the parent. You know your own child, you know when they cross that kind of boundary from being unwell to being really sick. And some of the things to look out for that are being picked out in a lot of the pieces in the paper this morning are a persistence of those symptoms, or a very sick child, or like a younger baby that is kind of floppy, you know, and not responding, or has dry nappies, you know. So all those kind of things that I think parents kind of instinctively know. When things are elevating beyond the point of
a raised rash can feel rough to touch like sandpaper.
Something called strawberry tongue as well, so a kind of red inflamed tongue.
It's so
you know,
funny, but we're saying words like scarlet fever now, because those are the sort of symptoms that they have, and they're just saying, please remember fever, raised rash, which can feel rough to the touch like sandpaper, a sore throat and a swollen tongue. So look out for those things with strep. And just if you're worried, get yourself to the doctor. As simple as that. So hopefully people are going to be, you know, okay and aware of what's going on.
But it is treatable with the likes of antibiotics and stuff as well, if you do go to the doctor.
Now, this story started yesterday, and it has been rolling on, and this is teachers. Their career breaks might be cancelled.
Yes, I tell you what, there is a sense of panic emanating, I think, from the government on this one in particular. It's important to know what this story is and it isn't. What happened yesterday is Norma Foley effectively sent a paper around briefing her cabinet colleagues saying, you know, these are the type of measures that are under consideration, and the headline one is the cancellation or curtailment of career breaks for new entrants. So it's not as if, you know, they're going to all of a sudden cancel all the career breaks just with a fiat authority and bring all the teachers back home. It's something that's under consideration, but I think what it shows is the degree of concern that there is in government, and particularly within the Department of Education, about this new element, really, of the housing crisis, because that's what it is, the problem. And when you look at the stats, it's all, the worst affected areas are all in the east of the country, where you have places like Kildare, Wicklow, Dublin and Meath, where teacher shortages are really massively profound. 100% of schools saying that they can't get access to teachers, and it's a cost of living issue, it's a rental issue, and it's a house price issue. So it's all kind of tied back to this kind of, you know, the genesis of all these kind of mutually reinforcing crises is the housing crisis.
I mean, it's
and
crazy.
It's going to heap political pressure on the government, because this is an issue that just kind of really sharpens voter intent, you know, along with things like health and also, you know, the access to housing itself. If kids and parents feel that they can't get access to a good quality of education, then you're looking at a backlash on the doors. You're looking at like winter kind of headaches for the government and for families as well. And as I said, these are the things that really shape and sharpen voter intent.
If we look at last year, right, at least 2,375 teachers were on a career break. Now, some of those were on maternity and parental leave. That is different. An awful lot, and they're looking at, you know, how many Irish teachers are working in Gulf states where it's tax-free. Then you have all of these teachers here who are newly qualified, who cannot get a job or a permanent position and get that permanent position to get their mortgage, because you've got teachers who are on 5-year career breaks over in the Gulf. and they're not going to be going after the people in the Gulf. It's for new people. There's got to be a sense of frustration if you're like, I want to stay in Ireland, I want to live here and start my life here, but I cannot get a job because this person's off for 5 years.
And that's one of the major problems in the education system, or rather in the teacher system, because you had that situation during the recession where effectively the ladder was pulled up, and you have this kind of dogleg between, you know, the two different cohorts of teachers. And it's, I think, true as well in parts of the nursing and the medical professions, where a certain kind of cohort, an older cohort, has better terms and conditions than the younger cohort, and people do feel disadvantaged. And, you know, I think that's why we've seen in recent months those billboards go up around the place, you know, come and work in Australia, and a lot of people will be thinking, well, why wouldn't I?
Well, I can understand that. I mean, if you talk about the Gulf state alone, tax-free salaries between 30 to 60 grand, annual flights home, medical insurance, and free or heavily subsidised housing.
Exactly. So, I mean, 30 grand salary tax-free is probably equivalent to about 50,000 €. 60 grand tax-free is probably equivalent to around 100,000 euros.
And then you look in Dublin...
You'd be a long time working as a teacher before you had 100 grand a year here.
Where they're talking about 65% of primary schools are not at the full quota for teachers.
I think it's 27%, but that comes back to the point I was making. It's 27% nationwide, but in Dublin, 65% of primary schools not. That's enormous.
Like if your children are in school
majority,
there, and we're already under the quota of what the EU wants.
Yeah, and I mean, not to be parochial about it, but people should have a look at the Irish Times today. Carl O'Brien, the education editor, has a really interesting piece where he's put a freedom of information request in for correspondence from the schools to the department, and they're screaming out for help. I mean, quite literally, sometimes it's there in block caps. I really need help. I can't get my staff. I can't get my classes staffed. And this extends to other areas as well, like special education, where obviously a lot of these kids have already come through the pandemic and already had their developmental, educational lives really curtailed and impacted. So
but
it's
if
a massive
you're going,
problem.
I can earn my salary in a place, in a lovely place like Clare, where I'll be able to go swim in Lahinch every single day, and I will still have some disposable income as opposed to paying to work in Dublin. What are you going to do?
Or live and jump into the sea in the Gulf states where it's lovely and warm.
Well, See, that's I'm wondering about this. If you're in the teaching profession, what you make of this. I know you're all heading out to school now in a minute, but you know, is there a situation where you've got young teachers who are on panels and cannot get full-time jobs, where they want full-time jobs because other teachers have left and they're on their career break? 0896 111 111.
Are new teachers who this is going to come in, that they're going to be told they're not allowed to go on a career breaks, where actually teachers who've been there before, who've already got the better system as it is and the better advantages. So if you're going to be joining the teaching system, it's going to be worse off for you. Let's talk about Leaving Cert, shall we then, as well? Another area where there's going to mix things up and probably annoy a few people.
Yes, so the Minister for Higher and Further Education, Simon Harris, was out yesterday making a bit of a song and dance about the new system that he says is coming in to kind of try and at least, if not replace, begin the process of reforming the Leaving Cert points race, which is something that I think we all went through, and it's probably an indication of just how kind of traumatic it is that, you know, everyone, even fogies like myself, still have bad dreams and trauma dreams about sitting in the Leaving Cert exam hall. And I think that it's roundly acknowledged that, you know, it is not a great system. It's more of a memory test than it is a test of learning or intelligence or interpretation or any of these kind of more soft skills that you actually need further on in life. But the problem is that while it's flawed, it is seen as ultimately quite fair, and that it's horrible to everyone. So
everybody's in a terrible state, but it doesn't make it any better, does it?
It doesn't make it any better. So I think, you know, this is to be lauded, and what they're doing is they're kind of trying to look at alternate pathways, I should say, into third level, so through the higher and further education courses, and perhaps not, you know, like straightly down the traditional CAO system of the points race. And, you know, Harris is talking about a massive reform in third level education. I think in principle, absolutely, but when you drill down into the figures, I think it's 13 new entry routes out of 1,400 CAO courses. So to be welcomed, and hopefully from little acorns grow great oak trees. But, you know, let's wait and see just how widespread and how fundamental this reform actually is.
But for those Leaving Cert students right now, just start drinking 75 cups of tea every single day. A new study, I mean, Alan Hughes, like the most intelligent man that I know, he has I don't know how many cups of tea before 7 a.m. in the morning.
But he has no tea bags in his cup of tea.
He does, actually, it's just gruel with a bit of milk in it. So a cup of tea is a key to a good memory.
Yes, flavanols, an antioxidant molecule found in tea, is shown to boost brain health. So, plenty of tea, but also plenty of boring things like broccoli, kale, spinach, tomatoes, pears, but even wine and ale. Wine and ale. It's smart. Christmas.
This is what I try to tell my wife all the time. Listen, get the wine and ale.
Wine being good for memory, in fairness.
No, we haven't.
This is the sort of research that I love. Tea, wine, and ale, and a bit of broccoli will improve your memory.
All together. We'll get Edward to make it for us in the kitchen, some sort of a thing together. Jack Horgan-Jones from the Irish Times, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Cheers. Alan, cup of tea?
Well, I'm living proof that that's not true. Living proof. Wine, tea, I'm none the brainier for it, I'm sorry. Now, coming up, Jack, what do you think is the top Google search thing from last year?
Oh my God! This year,
this year.
Certainly not COVID. New socks. That's the last thing I googled.
Yeah.
There we go.
Socks. Yeah. An insight into Jack Horgan-Jones' exciting life there.
Johnny Depp.
Now, we could be there with that one, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're going to find out after the break.
Welcome back. Now, it's that time of the year when Google managed to get us talking about Google and giving them free advertising by releasing the top country Google searches for 2022.
But it's interesting. It is interesting.
I haven't looked at it yet. I'm
and here to provide us with the inside is a man who loves a good nose around. Broadcaster and panto performer Paul Ryder. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
well, all-round performer, dear.
Listen.
All-round performer.
Did you get panto performer in there, did you?
He's not in it this year.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to...
I forgot about that.
We won't Google that one anyway.
No, they managed to get us talking about Google every time this year, being like, what did you Google? What did you Google? What did you Google?
This is always such a big thing every year to kind of be... Because as Irish people, we're completely nosy, so we are dying to know what everyone has Googled over the last year. And Google, every year, this time of year, they get us to find out what we've been looking at.
Now, we have the top 5. Will we go from 5 to 1?
Yeah,
Let's go from
I don't know.
Let's go from 5 to 1. So 5 is Will Smith.
Yes, obviously this year was a huge year for the Academy Awards, the 94th Annual Academy Awards, which is the Oscars. Will Smith just lost it and gave Chris Rock the biggest slap across the face because he made a very derogatory comment about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. And in a recent interview only this week, he was talking to Trevor Noah from The Daily Show.
I saw it, yes.
And literally, that's his tagline. I just lost it. He said, you just never know what's going on in people's heads or what's going on at home with people. So you just kind of have to accept it and move on. Now, it's said that he actually can still win an Oscar.
But he can't be there.
He can't be there.
For 10 years, isn't it? Something like that.
For 10 years. He's lost his Academy card for apparently 10 years.
Yeah.
So he's on the bold step for 10 years.
Oh, no.
And I suppose everyone was Googling Will Smith's slap because we all thought it was fake. We all thought it was, like, not real.
Part
we were like,
of a joke or something, or part of the awards or something like that.
No, I was watching it live and you could see him glaze over and do that Tom Cruise thing where you're like, we can see the robot underneath the actual skin there, Will. We can see what's going on.
So number 4 then, another actor. And Tommy got this one, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
So Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are actually the number 1 and number 2 people that we Googled in the last year. And obviously they've had trial after trial after trial. We're about to go into trial number 3 of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Johnny Depp sued the Sun first because of a libel comment they made, and they basically said she needs to prove it. She proved it in a way, and then he countersued again, which he won his case last year. That was the reason I think we were so invested in that.
Well, he lost the one in the UK, he won the one in America.
He won the one in America, yeah. So I think that's why we were so invested, is because we were literally going day by day, because it's the first kind of courtroom scandal celebrity drama that we've seen like this.
And it was, and look at her there, and she's crying.
Since OJ, though, it really
Since
isn't
OJ,
it?
but we were Googling everything to do with it to find out why, what, where,
what was
when,
going
and how.
on.
And now case 3, which has been filed as another countersuit, you're like, lads, take your money and run.
Yeah,
just
give it up.
I don't want to be in 2023 doing the same thing.
Number 3, and no surprise here, the Queen's death.
Yeah,
Queen
obviously,
Elizabeth's death.
8th of September 2022 is a day that we'll all remember as to kind of where you were when you found out that the Queen had died. And everything that kind of surrounded that, the build-up to it, people, the doctors calling the family to Balmoral to be by her side in case anything had gone wrong and stuff like that. And then almost to find out the history as well as that. And look at what's happened in recent months. I guarantee you next year we'll be talking about Prince Harry and Meghan, and they'll be in our top searches because there've been Netflix documentaries, bad behaviour, everyone's not talking to everyone. And of course, Prince Charles and his sausage fingers. That'll probably be the top of the list next year.
Sorry?
His big, gigantic fingers.
His big...
Have you not seen his fingers?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to Google straight up.
Can you Google? Tommy, we're Googling Prince Charles' sausage fingers. Okay.
Afraid what'll come up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the network won't let you on that one inside here. You can't Google that.
Number 2 was the Ukraine and Russia's invasion of the Ukraine.
Obviously, of course, that was it's been a massive talking point this year. There's been so much, and also, as people don't understand what was going on, because obviously to a lot of people in Ireland, this might have just happened overnight, whereas this wasn't an overnight situation. This was a build-up. Russia and the troops were getting on the border of Ukraine to kind of prepare for war, and all of a sudden we were just knowing exactly what was happening. So a lot of the questions are, what is NATO? What is the population of Ukraine? And then the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So that's been a massive talking point this year, so I'm not surprised.
And the number one...
Beating a war that has threatened to go nuclear.
Yes.
Is...
A game. Literally, a game that you play within 5 seconds. Wordle. Wordle was the top search.
That's great.
Did you play it?
Yeah. My mother still plays it every day.
Exactly, and I only spotted it because it used to be on people's Twitter accounts that you'd see what their results were for the day. And then I was like...
the humble brags got it in one.
And you'd be finding like grown men and women playing Wordle on thing. And now I understand why, because to do my research, I spent every day doing my Wordle, and I'm like,
do you get it now? It is very addictive.
I get it. I'm not good at it, but like I still get it.
But do you like it?
I do like it because it's quick, it's easy. You can do it in a couple of minutes.
So what is it?
So it's a 5-letter word. You've got 6 attempts at a 5-letter word, and basically every time...
all the thing. It's like countdown, is it?
But every time you put a letter in, it'll tell you what's right, what's wrong.
Okay, thanks, Murray.
Have you watched Lingo? It's Celebrity Lingo with RuPaul now. It's basically that in a computer game. I love a bit of lingo.
Okay, so Wordle. Okay, then the top how-to and what is. So what would your top how-to...
Well, what is Dana, who works at just goes, we're like, what do you Google? And she's like, why is my dog breathing that way? I think is her top one.
Well, how to fix something.
It would always be cook.
The most important one of last year was how to get a COVID cert. Because everyone was trying to go away on holidays.
How to get a COVID cert.
And the second one was how to book a PCR. So everyone was just trying to go on
third one, how to play Wordle.
That's what you're going to be doing now.
What is the weather?
The top one is what is NATO. And the second one was what is monkeypox. So we were very kind of intrigued in less entertaining things, obviously, of the last year.
Right, well, sausage fingers, thanks a million for coming in. Sammy sausages and sausage fingers over here.
We have to get a picture of Prince Charles' sausage fingers before the day is out.
Oh, and sausage fingers.
Paul, thank you so much for that.
I'm looking forward to your new character. It's going to be amazing.
Let us know some of your top searches where this year... don't keep it clean. Send it all in. Get in touch. 089 611 111.
All right, sausage fingers, have you been doing your best work over there?
Right, so the top 3 recipes, people search.
Come on, I thought you were going to give me
Okay, so we got spaghetti bolognese, number 3.
Yeah.
How to make mushroom soup is number 2. And then, what's a porn star martini?
It's a drink.
Well, I know it's a drink. Well, a porn star martini is number 1. There you go.
There you go.
Now, still to come this morning, Richie Sadlier is going to be talking to us about porn star martinis. Plus, our pastry queen, Catherine Leyden, is baking a Christmas shortbread. Can't wait for that. See you in a couple of minutes. Hello, you're very welcome back to Ireland M. We've still got loads more to come.
We do. Coming up at this hour, Richie Sadlier will be chatting about upcoming fatherhood.
Plus, the Toy Story becomes a musical.
Toy show.
Oh, yeah, the toy show. We're going to be finding out about what audiences can expect from the upcoming stage show.
There we go. Also, this morning, we'll be meeting the violin sensation who has been described as Ireland's answer to Andre Rieu. We'll be treated to a very festive performance by none other than Vladimir Jablokov.
Very good. Now, Alan is in the kitchen. What's coming up, Al?
Jablokov. Christmas has come early and Catherine Leyden is serving up her famous festive shortbread.
Yeah. And it's
delicious.
one of my favourites, Alan, yeah. And this is something, there are lots of different variations you can do in the recipe. I'm doing a fairly basic one today. But this is ideal to get children involved in making presents for grandparents, whatever else.
Oh, right. That's a lovely idea.
Lovely idea, yeah.
Put it up in a little box and wrap it up.
Yeah, or a little cellophane, wrap it up.
I've had a few already.
They're disappearing fast here.
I tell you, they're gorgeous. Look at them. Oh. Anyway, that's coming up at 8:35. Now, Deric is over west this morning. How's it going, Deric?
Yes, we're live here in Catherine's neck of the woods, actually, around Ballinasloe here in County Galway. It's a very cold, quite a frosty, misty and foggy start out there this morning with some wintry showers later on through parts of the north in across the northwest. But we're down here at the East Galway and Midlands Cancer Support Unit. They do fantastic work here in the ground. Good morning, guys. We're going to be catching up with some of the team here, some of the volunteers as well. Look, they've got the crib up, they've got the fire on. Jackie, is there a pot of tea going?
There is indeed. Sit down and make yourself at home.
Make yourself at home. Get pouring there. It's the couch start. Back to you in studio.
Welcome back. Time now to take a look at this morning's paper, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline, Vigilance urged over increase in a rare form of strep A. Parents and health staff have been urged to be vigilant for signs of the bacterial infection strep A after a 5-year-old girl died of a severe form of the illness in Northern Ireland, and a possible link to the death of another child in the state was under investigation.
The Irish Independent, the Examiner and the Mirror all lead with that same story, Ireland's strep A alert.
Now, different stories here. Gang gun mayhem is the top story of the Herald. Gardaí were on high alert yesterday after a night of gangland gun attacks in which one man died and 2 others narrowly escaped with their lives.
The Sun leads with the same story. Whack dealer was a marked man. A drug dealer killed outside his house has been warned his life was under threat.
The Star also lead with that story, blasted 8 times over feud. Dad of one murdered... I'm so sorry. Dad of one murdered in driveway after drugs row.
And finally, the Daily Mail goes with teachers face ban on career breaks. The Education Minister is to crack down career breaks for teachers, which allow them to work in tax-free countries in a bid to tackle the acute shortage of staff. And funny enough, we have a lot of text messages on that one, Alan.
You okay?
Sorry.
Cough it up. Cough it up there. Yes, Helen, as a nurse midwife, we are not facilitated with career breaks anymore and haven't been for the past 5 years or more. So that's someone sort of saying, well, look at... Not everybody is happy, but what?
We're having a burn.
All right.
Or cough. So, yes, what about this one? Helen, which one did you read there? Sorry,
Helen, but come here. While you're getting yourself together there, Tommy.
Sorry, I almost choked. It wasn't that funny, to be fair.
We were talking earlier on about the top Google searches of the year. And obviously the Ukraine war, the Ukraine-Russia war and all things. But Wordle was the top one. But there was one that struck us, and Paul Ryder was here and he sort of says...
well, no, he brought it up.
He brought it up. But this is... People have been Googling Prince Charles's sausage fingers. Swear to God. And this is why. Let's have a look. Oh, my God. Oh, dear. Wow. But this is what people are Googling.
Yeah, so we didn't realise that was a thing, so that when he put it in, it was like Prince Charles.
But we have to say, we do think it's obviously a medical condition or something like that. Yeah,
right.
We're assuming it is. But, like, people have been Googling this picture
I'm just
online.
wondering if people will start Googling your very elegant slim wrists.
I have the skinniest wrist ever.
Very elegant.
Yeah, so you only noticed that. How long are you working here now? But I know you don't be looking at me wrist.
Don't be looking at your wrist. Why would I ever see your wrist?
No, yeah.
There you have it now.
No.
Anyway.
Okay. We're going to move on.
We're also talking about tea making you, what, a little bit more brainy?
Yeah. Not working with that.
I've had 4 mugs of tea this morning since the show started. I'll get ready for work. And
I have one more before it goes. So, Jared, you're obviously very brainy then because
it helps your memory.
Helps your memory, yeah.
Anyway,
okay, I'm going to go get some water now so that I don't choke and you don't laugh at me. But anyway,
keep your text coming in. Richie Sadlier is set to become a father in the new year. He's going to be joining us for a chat on the couch after the break. Now, you're very welcome back. Joining us is a familiar face from the world of football who is also becoming a dad for the very first time.
And he has been very open about his and his wife's fertility journey. We'll be chatting about that in just a little while. He's right here with us now. Richie Sadlier, good morning.
Morning. Hey, Richie.
Love to see your smiling face. We have to talk about the World Cup. Because obviously, at the start of it, like we were talking about you on the first night of the World Cup, because you struck this lovely balance of talking about the political situation and the football. Is that hard?
It was tricky. I remember doing the prep for that show because on the one hand, normally when you're doing a World Cup and there's 32 teams, you're rattling through all the who qualified, who plays for who, all that football stuff. But this one, there was a different element. And you couldn't not talk about it, but we didn't know before the first day what appetite there was for anyone to hear us talking about it. And we thought, if we don't talk about it, will we be criticised? And if we do, how much do we go into it? Because it's a football show. And I remember being a child watching the World Cup and you're going, will we spoil this for children if we keep banging on about politics and corruption and gay rights and human rights? But if we don't, it seems to be we're going to be missing a pretty fundamental part of this tournament and the coverage of this tournament. So we tried to straddle that every day. You look at, well, OK, what's the news? What has happened? Do we need to talk about it? Do we not? And then it's down to the comfort levels of the people on the show as to what we want to get.
To be fair, I thought you nailed it. You got the tone really correct. In my opinion, I thought it was super coverage. And of course, now we're moving very much onto the football and we're getting to the knockout stages. And of course, that's where it all becomes about the football and it's forgotten about actually the other issues. But at the moment, what have you made of it from a footballing sense? Because I did yesterday, a surprise, like Spain being knocked out by Morocco.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. The thing we didn't know coming into this, because a load of the teams didn't have times to have friendlies. So England, I think, had 4 training sessions before the first game. So would that make this tournament one that would leave loads of the big teams open to being surprised and caught out?
Do you think that's the issue, that they didn't have the kind of pre-season camp together?
We've never done this before at this time of the year. So we're at the stage now, which is brilliant. First of all, I think today's the first day off we've had. Today's the first day when there's no game. Like 4 games a day is a lot.
Yeah.
When you're working on it, it's a lot. It's like you're in constant kind of work mode. But we're at the stage now where big hitters go home every day from now on.
Yeah.
There's a big story every day. Like last night, it was all about Ronaldo being dropped and all the rest of it. But it's brilliant. It's been really good. It's been really good.
I suppose from my point of view, it's been very easy for it to go under the radar because I didn't want to really engage with it because of what's going on there. And
loads of people didn't.
Yeah, you know, I just kind of don't. But I'm very much looking forward to Australia, to when Ireland is playing in that World Cup, the girls next year. I think that's going to be absolutely amazing. We'll have to ask you, who do you think is going to win?
The World Cup, I'm really rooting for France now because they're playing England. I hope there's no injury worries. I think Mbappe didn't train or something yesterday. We need him to get back.
That's going to be a cracker of a match.
That's
this weekend, Saturday night.
Yeah, I think that's the one match that probably the whole country actually might engage with. Actually, to be sorry to all of our English viewers who are watching. I hope you do great.
Are we really? Yeah. Richie, you're dealing with this coverage, which, as you said, is pretty hectic. But also, you have a wife at home, Fiona, who's pregnant at the minute, which is tough on her as well, not having you there to maybe help out.
He's like, how much can I do? I can't lift the bump.
But it's an exciting time for you both, though, because you've been on a bit of a journey.
Yeah, we have. So Fiona, all going well, will give birth to our first child in the end of January. Yeah. So it's amazing. This is exactly where we wanted to be, like, for years. So during the last World Cup, actually, on the morning of the second semi-final, so this was July 2018, we went to our first fertility appointment in a clinic together, and we were told that we wouldn't be able to conceive naturally and that if we wanted to be parents, we needed to do fertility treatment, and clock was ticking for X, Y and Z reasons. So start in the next few months.
Okay.
She was 35 at the time, I think I was 38, and we hadn't been trying for years. It was just routine fertility tests. And so we're like going, Christ, this seems all a bit rushed. Obviously, we didn't want the news that we couldn't conceive naturally. Yeah. I knew nothing about fertility treatment. I don't know. I'm looking at you now here. I don't know what conversations you had. I don't know if men talk about this at all. I had no conversation with any lads, learned nothing about it in school. It was never discussed, like, what's involved in treatment, where do you go, like, what's it cost. I knew nothing. So
and
learning
do you
on
think
the
men
job.
should know?
I think, going, I suppose, from my experience, I would have liked to have known more earlier.
Okay.
Because you kind of you're learning on the job, you're not really sure who you go to for advice, you don't have any information yourself. And I hadn't had years of conversations with friends where my mate told me, oh, he went there and she went there and we did this, and if we had our time again, we'd have done that. You know, all the usual stuff that you benefit when people just talk openly about a topic. So we did our first round of IVF in October 2018. And I remember at the time, the consultant said to us, he said, I'll give you a bit of advice, but nobody listens to this, but I'll tell you anyway. He said, couples, don't listen to me when I warn them about how heartbreaking this is going to be if it doesn't work. And me and Fiona are really positive. So when we go into anything, we always think, of course it's going to work. Sure, why wouldn't it? So we ignored what he said, steamed into it, absolutely convinced it would work first time, and it didn't. And he was right. Like it floors you. So we did 2 embryo transfers at the end of 2018. Neither worked. Did another round of IVF a month before our wedding. 2019 didn't work. Another one the following year. Another one the following year. And so overall, we transferred 8 embryos.
8 embryos. So Fiona had 8 embryos, and none of them took.
None of them took. And a couple of them were double transfers.
Okay.
And there's this weird thing. So I wouldn't have known any of this if you'd have told me about any of this. I wouldn't have known what you were talking about if I was watching this show. But when we got to a point where at the end of the round, they think we may have more than 1 embryo, which is viable.
Yeah.
So we may be suggesting to you to do a double transfer, which obviously increases the chances of a multiple birth. So they tell you to go off and go, how would you feel about multiple birth? So you spend a few days going, do we or don't we want twins? And you spend a few, what we did, we kind of got, is that completely bonkers?
Yeah.
But when you're in a world where you think we may never be parents, when someone offers you the chance of having 2 in one go, you go, yes, I want that.
Absolutely.
So we say yes, as if simply saying yes is going to result in us having twins.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that doesn't work either. So it's like every time we go into it, it was like, it wasn't just a failure of a round or like clinical language, like it was an unsuccessful round of treatment. It was like, we've lost our child. That's how it felt.
And that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
Not only that, I think there's so much that's done in the lead up to that. Like, the woman can be like a pincushion in getting herself ready for those treatments. There's a lot going on. Your hormones are all over the place, so you're kind of dealing with that. So is that how it feels? Does it feel, even though it's all scientific language, but in your head, you're like, that's my baby?
So we I don't know why, we landed on a girl's name very early on.
Okay.
So every round of treatment was, this is our journey to giving birth to this girl. And we would refer to her by the name.
Okay.
So so the injections, the IVF was a load of injections Fiona had to do all the time. So I would inject her each night at all the different times, and we would film it. Because you're like, wait till we show her, where she came from, and nothing was working. But every time we went into it on the basis that, I don't know why we thought it would be a girl. It's just because we had the name.
Yeah.
So it was like, and you do the sums, you go, okay, well, the treatment's then, so the due date is then. And, okay, so she's going to be a February baby or a July baby. And then every time when it didn't work, it genuinely felt like we've lost her. And then the more times it happened, and the more maybe go, well, the more times it's a no, eventually the cards will fall away and it's going to be a yes soon. Or else do you go, well, it's a no every time. Do we need to accept it's always going to be a no? And do we need to stop?
Yeah, I mean,
it's horrible. Like, it's horrible.
It must be so difficult. Like, I can't even imagine how difficult it is. And when you think of it, the 8 embryos, like, you went through 4 rounds of IVF for it to not work. It must come into your mind thinking, this is never going to work.
It does.
But then you did get a bit of good news.
Yeah, we had a lovely bit of news. Like, we kind of accepted the IVF wasn't going to work for us. The advice the consultants gave us was to go for egg donor treatment. We were going to go abroad for that. And then we got pregnant naturally. Like, unexplainable.
Isn't that amazing?
Which was lovely.
Do you think the IVF helps? Or, how?
It's where, in the whole world of fertility treatment, it's not like you get absolutes and this happens, so therefore that will happen, or this is the outcome and we can trace it back. Like, you're dealing with, like, Mother Nature kicks in at some point. Why do some pregnancies last and some pregnancies not? Yeah. Those are questions they can't answer.
Like, even the statistics, like, almost 1 in 4 heterosexual couples struggle to conceive naturally. That's very high numbers.
Yeah.
And it's not really talked about that.
It's
at
not
that
at
level.
all. No, like, Therapy Fertility did a lot of research recently, and they contacted me and asked me to kind of join the public conversation, and it's for things like that.
Yeah.
It's statistics that loads of people don't know how common it is among heterosexual couples to struggle to conceive naturally. It's something like 20 to 25%. But the stat that really jumped out to me was almost half of people would see fear of judgment or embarrassment as an obstacle to going into a fertility clinic, even looking for treatment. Now, I can understand that. Loads of people, like countless people, have contacted me in the last few months since I said that we'd been on this road, who are on this road, who have just gotten off it, who are about to start it, and loads of them say that they don't tell their friends, they can't tell all their family.
Is that from men and women, or is it?
Yeah,
it's both.
Both, but like a load of lads get onto me as well, and it's fear of being slagged by their mates, or just their partner maybe doesn't want
people to know.
Because it's a private thing, and which is really understandable.
Because if it doesn't work, everyone knows that you're trying for a baby.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work, the heartbreak is in public.
Yeah, and then you don't get to decide on which days it's talked about, because if other people know, at any moment they come up to you and go, "How are you getting on?"
Yeah.
Which mightn't be the question you want on particular days. So loads of people don't talk about it for understandable reasons, but I think the best thing we did, from the start, we talked to friends and family, so that in the really difficult days, and there were loads, I didn't only have Fiona to talk to about, and I wasn't her only source of either support or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're a couple and you're going through this, no one else knows, you've only one other person to talk to, and that's your partner, and they're going through an unbelievable amount of stuff too. So we had loads of options in who to talk to.
That's great.
On the days where you want to offload or cry or just rant or...
But, you know, as your role as a psychotherapist, and I'd say that's one of the biggest things you find is trying to encourage people to open up, to talk to different people, and a story like this is absolutely no difficult or different.
Tricky thing is we're going to have a baby tomorrow.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you have a baby in January.
We did an antenatal class thing last week, and there was loads of advice and information for Fiona, and I was sitting there writing notes, and then I said to the woman, I said, "Have you any advice for me, any do's and don'ts? Like, what's the partner meant to do with their birth?" And she just goes, "Just don't faint." She goes, "We've enough to be dealing with without having to look after you, so the bar is as low as possible. Just stay conscious."
It's not about you.
Yeah,
it's not about you.
Just don't faint.
Richie Sadlier, we hope that you have a lovely Christmas yourself and Fiona and your gorgeous dog. And in January, we can't wait to see the baby.
Now, look at me and Tommy. We couldn't wait for the cooking section.
This is my fourth.
Lucky us, Catherine Leyden is here with a real Christmas treat, and it's shortbread. Catherine, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
They're
we've
delicious.
We've no shortbread left near me.
I know, they're so good, Catherine.
Anyway, they're gorgeous. And I'm sure, Tommy, you're familiar with from the north and Scotland are great for shortbread.
Oh, sure, listen, everywhere, it's great. But even what I loved you saying, this is great for the kids.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
an easy
brilliant.
one for
it's
kids
really
to do
easy,
too.
yeah. Now, here I have 125 grams, that's 4 ounces of butter. Now, I do use butter for the old shortbread, you can't beat
you can taste it, for God's sake.
At room temperature. Now, if it's a little on the hard side, you could pop it into the microwave for just a few seconds. You don't want it to be runny, just nice and soft. Now, into that I'm putting 50 grams, that's 2 ounces of sugar. Now, you can use either caster sugar if you want a bite to the shortbread, or icing sugar. But what I do generally, as I've done here today, I'm actually using half and half. I use 25 grams, 1 ounce of caster sugar, and 50 grams, 1 ounce of icing sugar. I find you get a nice mixture with them. Now, you just beat until the butter is smooth. Now, if you're using all icing sugar, it will smooth a lot quicker, but you'll get a much softer textured shortbread. Now, we'll just give that a lash up to the top for a minute. Next stage is you add to that your 50 grams, that's 2 ounces of semolina, or you could use ground rice instead.
What?
Now, I find the semolina gives a nice, it gives a nice crunch to your shortbread.
Ground rice?
Yeah, ground rice as well.
I put semolina in my roast potatoes.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's semolina?
I have no idea what it
it's
is.
part of flour.
It makes my roasties nice and crunchy.
It does, gives a lovely crunch.
You put them into them?
So once you kind of parboil them and you give them a good bash, you put the semolina powder in it.
Before they go into the oven,
and then when they go in the fat,
you have
then
crunchy top on them.
Crust up, wow, really good.
Now, in there, I've put the semolina and the 125 grams, 4 ounces of plain flour. Now, you just start by combining those ingredients together.
Smoking.
It's only the flour, love. Now, we mix these together. I could have used... You'd be glad to know that's the end of that.
Right.
When it's come together like a crumble-like mixture, you put your hands into the bowl and you bring it together.
Is that it, Catherine?
That's it now. End of story. So you're talking 4 ounces, 125 grams of flour, 4 ounces, 125 grams of butter, and then 2 ounces of semolina, 50 grams, and 2 ounces of The sugar
I've never
and
heard
the semolina.
Of semolina.
Have you not?
Never heard of semolina.
Now, you could replace the semolina or the ground rice with corn flour.
So what? So you just pull it out then and stick it into the tray. How long will it go into the oven then for? Is it
about 15 minutes?
15, is that all?
That's all it takes, yeah. Now, very simple. Bring it together. Now, the children will love making this, I have to say. Look.
And would you make little shortbread or like little
Christmas trees and stuff?
Different
you can
things
take
like
out the cutters and they can make anything they want. Now, I've got some in the oven that I have in a small square tin, so we'll cut fingers, or else a 7-inch sandwich tin, little bit of flour in your hands.
Are you leaving it like that? Oh, no, you just press it down.
Here, boss, we press it down. Now, the secret is you put this into a fridge for about 20 minutes, right?
Before the oven.
Before you go into the preheated oven, 190 centigrade, 375 Fahrenheit, gas mark 5.
Why do you put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes?
To chill it out before it goes into the oven so you get a nice crispy shortbread afterwards. So just, with the help of a little bit of flour, down she goes. Now, what we do now is we just lightly dust that with
more
some
sugar?
This is castor sugar, yeah.
This is castor.
Now you see it sprinkling on top of them there.
No, I'm tasting it.
Do you? Now, and you cut them into wedges.
Oh, so you do this before it goes in?
Yeah. Now it'll all join together, but you cut it again when it comes out of the oven. You just get your markings right here at this stage.
So in for 15 minutes.
15 minutes into a fridge. Now,
20 minutes in the fridge and then 15 minutes.
And then 15 minutes in the preheated oven.
All right, that's gone into the
just
fridge.
put that in now.
We'll take that one out and give us a look at it.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thanks, sir.
Military here, I tell you. Alan's getting hungry again. Oh,
Perfect.
Look at that, Catherine Leyden.
Ah, yes.
Very good. And what's with the rolling pin then?
That's if you're making biscuits.
Oh, OK.
You can put it on the floured board and roll it. Now, you can use the plain rolling pin or one with a nice design on it.
Okay. Oh, and then it'll give a little plump up thing. And they're here in front of us, and as we were saying, myself and Tommy have been milling into these since 7 o'clock this morning. Look, they're absolutely gorgeous.
They're the wedges, and there's, I think, one of the squares left.
Yeah,
so
very few left. Very few left.
Absolute star. I'm going to have
another one
for the day.
Have another one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think I might wait and have a nice hot one. Thank you so much, Catherine. Now, after the break, Deric is in Galway to find out about the great work being done by a community project.
We'll see you back here, What?
Thanks for staying with us. Now, all morning, Deric is live from Galway, where there's great work being done. Tell us more, Deric.
Yes, we're live here at the East Galway and Midlands Cancer Support Unit, just outside Ballinasloe here in the west, right across the morning. Jaqueline, we'll chat to you first. You're the Director of Cancer Support Services here in the centre. Tell us about the centre itself.
Well, the centre started in 2010 and then we're lucky enough to be able to purchase it in 2012. So we support anybody with a cancer diagnosis and their family and friends. So we do a whole host of supports. We do massage therapy, we do support groups, we have yoga, we have gym, we have transport to Galway for radiotherapy, and we have a lot of fun. So there's great crack around the table.
Yeah, there is the order now.
So most people say, oh my God, it must be very hard working there. One of the descriptions we got at one stage was one lady left and she said, you know what, it was like going into Granny's house. So that's really the way we want it. We want it to be a safe place for somebody to come where they know that they can leave their worries here, they can have an hour for relaxation, they can join the support groups, they can talk to other people who've had a similar diagnosis to them. At different times then we have people to come in and talk and education. So it's a whole host of different supports.
There's a real community atmosphere
Absolutely.
here. It feels like that here this morning, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And then we've a beautiful garden, and like that we have local groups that come in and help us to maintain the garden. So you will even have people who will come in and sit in the garden and read a book, do a little bit of meditation, and on that day they may not feel like coming into the centre, and that's fine. So the centre has to suit you as you walk in the door, not what we think you want.
And Jaqueline, you do a lot of work with kids as well.
We do a programme called Climb, and that's for children between the age of 5 and 12 who have an adult in their life with a cancer diagnosis. Most children hear about people who die from cancer, but of course treatments have improved so much over the years that a lot more people are surviving and living well even with cancer. So this is a programme done over 6 weeks, and it's done through art and drama.
Art and drama. Now, the Tesco Community Fund, Deirdre, you're highly involved in this initiative, and without the money that comes from Tesco, centres like this wouldn't survive.
Yeah, Deric, it's lovely to be here this morning. So we launched the Tesco Community Fund back in 2014, and we've donated over 7 million to 22,000 community projects like East Galway and Midlands Cancer Care Support. So it's lovely to be here this morning, to have the scones and the tea and the chats and the laughs, and to be able to see what that funding is going to help.
That's what I was going to say, to see where the money that the public have donated really, to all the little tokens in the stores, we all know.
That's it, the customers vote, and then we divide the money. Each store has a fund. We divide that money based on the customer votes to organisations. So every cause gets something. And like East Galway and Midlands Cancer Care Support have got over €4,000. So it's fantastic to be able to be here this morning to see that.
It's fantastic. And of course, this year then, you've upped your fund as well.
We certainly have. So we have upped it to €1 million this year. So community groups across Ireland will be able to support what matters most in the community, and these groups will get up to €1 million divided.
Amazing work done here in the local community. So we're going to walk and talk now. We're going to bring you down across the centre, and the centre here itself has actually 3 therapy rooms, and we're going to pop in here to a massage therapist, Daryl. How are you, Daryl?
How are you? Very well, thank you. Good morning.
Great. Now tell us about the work that you do.
Well, what we do here is we work with different clients, post and op and pre-op, but we make sure that they have their doctor's clearance before we work on someone. So with individuals, what we're doing is mainly if they're going through treatment, it's very light, it's very relaxed, just to relax the muscles, a lot of stress and tension. Once they've gone through their treatment and maybe they've got the all clear and things like that, we still work on them. We make sure we bring them in to keep their progress going. We can go a little deeper if we like once it's clear, but generally it's a very light, relaxing massage for any of the patients that are going through treatment.
Okay, so you look after both pre-op and post as well?
Yes, yeah. Okay. So we make sure that once people have gone through that they have the support here in the centre, that they can always come back here and be looked after, because even when you're okay, that wise, it comes back and you have a lot of stress and tension, yes. So there's a lot of support after you've been through what you've been through. All right, Darla. And of course, Jackie, in the run-up to Christmas, a very busy time for you as well.
It is indeed. So through some of the support that we get from Tesco's, we actually do food parcels, which is absolutely fantastic, that we can make sure everybody has what they need for Christmas. And talking on the fund, we use some of the funds that we get from them to make sure that therapists like Daryl have got all the oncology training that they need, so that we're running a completely safe practice the whole time.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. It's ECG, isn't it?
EGM Cancer.
EGMcancersupport.com. That's where you'll find them online. But for me and all the team here in Ballinasloe, in West County Galway, back to you in studio. It's East Galway. It's East Galway.
He's somewhere. He's east, he's west.
Great
he's
work.
all over the country.
Great work being done there.
Absolutely. Now, coming up in the next hour of Ireland AM, we'll be finding out why the toy show is getting a musical makeover.
Stylist Justine King has got some looks for any occasion this festive season.
And we're going to be treated to a performance from a virtuoso violinist who's been described as Ireland's answer to Andrew Ryu. What's his name? Go away, we'll see in a few minutes.
We'll talk to you in a second.
We'll see in a few minutes.
Now, we had Richie Sadlier on earlier on talking about him and his Fiona, his wife's fertility journey. And of course, they're expecting a baby coming in January, which is very, very exciting. But Richie talked about having to go through 4 rounds of IVF with 8 embryos, and just the heartbreak, when it doesn't work out for you. And incredible, some of the texts coming in here. I totally know Richie Sadlier is coming from myself. My husband did 16 rounds of IVF without success. I'm delighted for anyone when it works. I mean, 16 rounds.
And it was like he was saying earlier on, like after every failure, you're going, well, maybe the next one will work, and it's like nearly a loss each time that you feel, oh, that's like.
And the consultant kind of said, he said, no one listens to me when I give you this advice, but whenever the chances of this working are very, very slim.
But you want to have that
You
positive.
have to have the positive, yeah.
And like
of
that,
course.
you were obviously just kept trying 16 rounds
And
of
I'm
it.
so
sorry
because
to hear
especially
that,
all the hormone changes you would go
So
through
difficult.
with 16 rounds, like it's a battering on a woman's body. I'm still recovering a month after my 11th cycle of IVF. Not only is the preparation difficult, the aftermath of the failed cycle takes months to recover from mentally and physically. I'm so sorry. I know that people keep it quiet, but you're not alone. And I know that it can be a very private grief, and we're just thinking of you this morning.
But that is what Richie kind of said, that he spoke to his family about it and spoke to friends about it. And as difficult as it is to maybe go out there and reach out to people, I think, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah, and you're just not alone. You're with Ireland AM. We'll be back with you very shortly.
Now, our next guests are two of the stars behind a brand new Irish musical. Between them, they've danced with the Duchess and DJ'd on the decks.
Welcome, actor Jamie Beamish, and one of the stars of last year's toy show. It's DJ Callum. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
How are you doing? I thought you were going to do a...
Good.
I knew it. I was waiting for him to ready to describe. Jamie, Christmas time now, I have to say, I think about you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were one of the most hated men on the internet at Christmas 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, God, my phone melted down like Christmas Day, Christmas 2020, when Bridgerton came out. And no one knew, because, you know, you don't tell anyone you're going to be in something. I don't anyway, because you never know, you could be on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
No, seriously, I say nothing, yeah.
And then you ended up having a big role as Nigel Burke.
There you go, yeah. The funny thing about it is, actually, I'm only in the first 2 episodes of the first series, but it's gas, it's kind of, it's clung on to me. It'll be on my gravestone, I'd say, you know.
Because you make quite the impression.
Well, the bad impression it looks like, but yeah.
You got a bit of a backlash from it, didn't you?
Yeah, but you know, like, that's the thing. Online, there was a lot of people saying stuff, but it was all about the character. It wasn't necessarily about me. But it was funny, because I had a lot of friends text me going, are you okay? You know, because some of the things that were being said about me, people calling me, saying like, oh, look, Nigel Burke looks like a foot, you know, and things like that. That's nice, isn't it, Callum?
But you're just saying that that's just the character, it's not me.
I was also kind of, you know, I repost them and with a pithy reply, and kind of go, well, if you have a foot fetish, that'll do, like, you know. So, yeah, it might be early in the morning for that, but anyway, there we go.
I do remember you leaning into it. I was watching your stuff going, oh, he's having great crack with this.
It was brilliant. And it was great.
I'm assuming you didn't watch the show.
Watch
with Bridgerton with your family.
Oh, not at all.
Oh, God,
oh my God, no.
Oh,
but Callum was sitting here going, what?
I know, it's not. In a few years' time. In a few years' time, it's not.
No.
Yeah, not quite the family show. But Callum, we all know you from the family show, of course.
Yep.
Back on the toy show, DJing on the decks. But it's all about the bagpipes now, is it? You're hitting the big the stage.
Yep, that's it.
How are you finding it?
Good, hard, but it's fun. It's great crack learning new things as well,
So you're in school. What class are you in school?
First year now.
First year. So how have you managed to balance it all?
I know, it's hard. I just haven't been in school because I'm rehearsing every morning till, well, in the day mostly. Sometimes it can be 10 to 1, I'd say, mostly.
Okay.
10 to 1. So Norma Foley, the Minister for Education, is looking in right now going, OK, we got to talk to Callum about maybe not taking 5 weeks off school.
It's a different education.
Yeah, exactly, he's learning different skills.
Oh, he's ready to jump in so you don't get into trouble.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Different education. So can you, Jamie, tell us about the toy show, the musical?
Toy show, the musical.
What is it?
Well, look, it's a brand new story, yeah? So the producers, Catherine Drone and Jane Murphy, they came up with this idea about 3 years ago about making a musical about the toy show. And you kind of go, what's it going to be? Is it going to be the toy show on stage? Well, no, you see the toy show every year. The toy show is the toy show. So this is Toy Show, the musical. And what it is, it's a story inspired by the toy show as such. And it's a fictional story. It's about the Mooney family who live on Tricycle Street. And Nell is our lead. And her gang, the Tricycle Street gang, Callum is one of them. He plays Johnny Bagpipes. But this year's a bit different. They're getting ready for the toy show. It's all building up like we do in Ireland. But it's a bit different because their mum isn't around anymore. She passed away during the year. And the dad is after losing his mojo. I play the dad. And I'm not much crack to begin with, let's put it that way. But Nell is trying to help, isn't she? You know, and she's trying to help her dad and the whole street and everything, you know, get ready for the toy show and hope that will bring dad out of himself. And then something happens, a big thing happens, which threatens the toy show, not just for Tricycle Street, for the whole of Ireland. And I'm not going to say any more because we don't want any spoilers.
Let them go see it.
Exactly, let them go and see it. Look at this guy.
Sell. Did you have to learn how to play the bagpipes for this?
Yeah, I'm doing a little solo at the end of the show.
You're not?
Had you ever done it before?
No.
No, who picks up the bagpipes? Oh my God.
Told you education.
It'll be great,
It's great, isn't it? Yeah. You're right, man.
And he's learning to sell as well.
Oh, very good.
What about the DJing then? Has that kind of gone to the background?
Yeah, a bit. I'm still chipping away with it now, but I've been kind of focused on the rehearsing for it because I'm rehearsing 6 days a week over the past 6 weeks now. So it's been go, go, go. Busy.
I mean, look at you there. And this is with your brother then as well. He's kind of was your hype man in the toy show before, wasn't he?
Yeah, he sure was.
And what do you make of? Because obviously you made a huge impression. You all brought a smile to our face. I think DJ Tiesto, was he in contact with you after the toy show last year?
Yeah, he reached over to me and said, keep doing what you're doing. And then we were back and forward in the DMs and he shared some of me posted as well.
Back and forward in the DMs.
With Tiesto.
I mean, Jamie, who are you back and forward in the DMs with?
No, I'm not going to tell you the DMs I got after Bridgerton, to be honest. Saying that.
What would be the dream for you though, Callum? Like, would you?
Probably, you never know. I'm going to stick to the DJing for definite. I'll get back to it after Christmas, but I'm enjoying the acting now, so you never know what the future holds, you know.
Do you enjoy the buzz? Are you really excited about getting up out onto stage as well?
I just want to get out on the stage. It's so exciting.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, a bit, but once I get going, I'll be grand, I'd say.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And Jamie, how are you feeling about being a father to a bunch of children? You're really getting into that role.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I've no kids myself, and now I have 34 all of a sudden.
34 children.
34, yeah. So, but I get to give them back at the end, which is great, like, you know, which is fine. But yeah, we have a ton of kids in the show. It's great. We've 3 different teams, and you're Team Red, isn't it, Callum? Yeah. Go Team Red, huh?
Go Team Red.
And we've Team Red, Yellow and Team Blue, because thankfully child labour laws in this country are good, and so they can't do every show, but us adult actors do, you know. We've 3 show days over Christmas, and you're kind of going, oh my God. But listen, it's brilliant. And you know what? It's a lovely palate cleanser after, say, Bridgerton, and I did a Western there recently, and I played like not such a nice character in that as well. So doing something like this is great. And my 2 nieces can come and see it, Kate and Beth, like they can come, and it's great. You know,
it's such a family show, exactly, and it's an institution in Ireland as well. So there'll be people. But it sounds like there's a serious story to it as well, and it's all about families.
Absolutely, and about how important it is to hold on to being a kid, you know, even when you grow up, isn't it just, you know, and so that's the big thing. And, you know, it's a musical, like, you know, in every way, shape or form. It's not a pantomime, and there's some brilliant pantomimes to see around, you know, the country this year, but this is really a musical. And
Jamie spotted Alan out the corner of his eye over there.
There we go, there's Lions T. But I kind of went, when they asked me to do it, I went, OK, if this is a new Irish musical, that's something that really excites me. You know?
And people love that. I'm just wondering, because you've worked so much with Nicola Coughlan on Bridgerton and Dairy Girls, you did her podcast that she co-wrote.
That's right,
Is she popping up? Like, is this in your contract now that Nicola and you pop up together in every show that you do?
Yeah, Nicola said that recently, and I was kind of going, I'll take that, because, you know, with a rising star like that, I'll hang on the coattails and everything. Right. Nicola's brilliant, and hopefully she'll be able to get to see it, but she's busy now with Bridgerton season 3 at the moment. And actually her sister Grania is doing hair and makeup on Ty show, so even then, you know what I mean? It's a small country, and it's all a family thing. Like,
was that a thing that happened on Bridgerton? Because obviously Dairy Girls, when you're on that cast, you know, it's a bunch of Irish people, you're all going to know each other anyway. Yeah. But on Bridgerton, because you were the 2 Irish people, do you know each other?
Well, that was funny, yeah, because like they didn't know I was Irish when, because I auditioned, I just did a tape, and in an English accent, I turn up to the first read-through of Bridgerton, and I say hello to the director and the producer, and they look at me and they kind of go, where are you from? I went, oh God, I'm Irish. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get sacked now. They think I'm English, and I'm not. I'm going to get sacked. And then they say, oh, do you know Nicola? And not because they knew Dairy Girls, because we were Irish. And I was going, yeah, not everyone in Ireland knows each other, you know. But we kind of do.
But we do. Yeah, that's it.
Callum, listen, finally, what school are you in?
Benevin de la Salle College.
And what's the name of your teacher that you haven't seen in a little while?
Mr. Rooney. I have loads.
Mr. Rooney. Do you want to say hello to Mr. Rooney down the camera and all your class there as well, to say we'll see you all soon? Make sure to come see the show.
Yep. Hey, Mr. Rooney, get your tickets now and go see.
Because that's the only way they're going to see you before Christmas.
You don't learn that in school, I tell you. Listen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you both here. James Beamish and Callum, Kieran as well. And to your brother as well, Jax, we saw him outside as well.
Yes.
The 2 hype boys together.
Toy Show the Musical, it's on from December the 10th in the Convention Centre in Dublin. Thank you both for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Brilliant fun. Lots more Ireland coming up very shortly. We'll see you after the break.
and AM have teamed up with Tesco, who are standing up for joy this Christmas. Not only do they want to help customers have a joyful and affordable Christmas, but they're also helping to make entertaining super easy with their range of pre-prepared party food that all cook at the same temperature. The full range will be in store from December 12th, with everything from chicken tikka samosa to truffle mac and cheese bites and tempura prawns to Tesco Plant Chef no mozzarella sticks. There's something for all tastes and dietary requirements, including gluten-free, vegetarian and vegan options. Together with Tesco, we're giving you the chance to win a €1,000 shopping voucher to spend in-store to help with your big Christmas shop and beyond. For your chance to win, just tell us, chicken tikka originated in what country? Is it A, India, or B, England? To enter, call 1550 999 318 or text SHOP to 57199.
Welcome back. It is a fashion time. Festive fashion.
Festive fashion this morning, and Justine King is here to talk us through all the looks. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So let's get straight into it, and our first look this morning with Ursula.
Yeah, so Ursula's bringing a pop of colour to our screens this morning. This season and into Spring-Summer 23, we're seeing a lot of this kind of bright coats. And we saw them at Valentino, at Izzy Miyake, and this one is from Nicola Ross in Nace, and they're also online. So we're going for the beautiful turquoise. Now, they do this coat in a lime, an orange, a pink and a tan, but I think that colour is just so beautiful on her skin tone. And obviously the coat we're picking up on the print that's going on in the dress underneath. So it is just showing you festive fashion. It doesn't have to be about green and red and sequin.
And sequins and
you
glitter.
You can still have lots of fun and colour and richness while looking like you have your nice winter look.
Can we talk about the boots?
Yes, so
sorry, I know we're
on the dress and the coat.
Sorry, I'm just
getting carried away.
Dress, first of all, is a beautiful kind of shirt dress, Mandarin style collar, button down. It has pockets. Irish women, we absolutely love our pockets. They do this in various different colours as well. This is a real easy dress. You kind of dress that up or down. I think you could wear it again in spring with your pair of runners and your denim jacket too. I have teamed it though with the kind of wintry kind of style boots today to show how you can elevate it and dress it up. But add a pair of heels to that dress, it would work as well.
Yeah, you can. Listen, you can go tone on tone, you can do blue, you can do whatever you want, but those boots.
Aren't they stunning? So these are
What's
from...
so special about the boots?
Those are going to be amazing with anything because they've got that platform, but it's hidden.
Absolutely. And they have the gorgeous block heel and they're really classic. They have the zip at the back. Wear them with your jeans, with your tapered trousers, your dresses. They're from Murphy Shoes in Bantry and they're beautiful leather suede. So onto the earrings then, and these are from Irish brand Magpie Rose. So these are all hand designed and handmade in Clontarf in Dublin. These are the Rocks of the Sky collection. So you can see this beautiful blue agate gemstone. And then her bangle as well is complemented with that blue agate stone and then some beautiful quartz going through it too, and it's on a gold plating. So they're really unique, kind of gorgeous pieces.
Lovely. Thank you, Ursula. We'll see you in a minute. Simona is our second look.
Simona's up next, and we're going monochrome with this beautiful classic look. Again, it's from Nicola Ross in Nace. Isn't it absolutely stunning?
Can't go wrong with a coat like that.
Absolutely. And I think if you go invest in a coat like this, you could wear any black look underneath and you're always going to look kind of that effortlessly classic look. And this is the kind of longer line coat that they do, and they have this in a tan and a cobalt as well. It has a little kind of belt at the back, and then it's that relaxed fit. So as you can see, it's worn that kind of generous, relaxed, oversized fit. It looks so expensive on as well, and I just think you'd get loads of wear out of that same piece.
Beautiful. You got a jumpsuit underneath.
Yes, so this jumpsuit is absolutely stunning. They can barely keep this in stock. They do it in navy and in green as well. It suits women of all sizes. It goes up to an extra large. It has that kind of twist knot detail at the front. That's what makes it very flattering.
Very different and lovely,
Isn't it? It hangs so beautifully, and then just the 3/4 length ruched sleeve, and then of course the fabulous V-necks. It's going to work on a bigger bust as well, and of course you've got a pocket too.
Okay, and then with the shoes, you're bringing the sparkle with the Jimmy Choo's.
Yes, so just a little bit of bling here. Again, they're from Murphy Shoes, but they are Rachel's is the brand, and they are 100% leather suede, and they have a flexi sole on those too. So they're going to be a really comfortable shoe. You'd wear them again year after year.
And the earrings?
Yeah, so onto her gorgeous earrings, and they are the cocktail style earrings. They do these in various different stones. The great thing about Magpie Rose is that no two stones are alike, so you're going to get a unique piece. You know, if you're looking at Christmas gifting, they're a gorgeous piece.
No two pieces are the same?
No, in that, like, the stones are all unique. They're semi-precious stones.
Oh,
they're going to be completely different. I'll just get you to turn the necklace slightly. Simona's just turned over a little bit, but that is the blue agate, or the purple agate stone as well. Oh, there we go.
There we go. There we go. All
So it all kind of ties in nicely.
She's going, what are you talking about?
What's going on
And
there?
it brings that little bit of colour as well to a monochrome look in your stone as well, in your jewellery there.
Lovely. Now, come here to me, Danny. This is fabulous.
Isn't it absolutely stunning? This is a coat from Irish brand On Trend, who are online only.
I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. We saw this kind of pleated style coat, but in a trench coat at Burberry, at Valentino. I love this kind of heavier winter coat in this style. It's kind of utilitarian as well, isn't it? With the epaulets
really
on the shoulders, obviously in the khaki green. They do this in a deeper brown as well. It's like a dress.
All the detail on it.
Yeah, it's
loads
absolutely.
of little detail things.
You
on
nearly
it.
don't want to take that off and show what you're wearing underneath because it's like
Could
a
you
dress.
wear that out all night?
I think you could. I mean, it's a little bit warm. A little bit
warm. But I mean, if it's,
you could wear it, or even just with a slip dress underneath. But we've styled it with this paisley little mini dress here. And this comes in a longer shirt dress style as well, if you prefer a longer dress. But I love that kind of smock style. It's really easy to wear. You could absolutely wear your thick black tights with this too. We just showed it on the bare leg. It's got the 3/4 length sleeve, and yeah, it's just a really easy shape as well too.
Yeah.
And that one's from Friday's edit.
Beautiful. These boots.
Aren't these boots? Wow. So they are real leather, and I think if you are finding you wear the kind of knee-high boot a lot, investing in the real leather means you will wear them year after year. Yeah. What I love about these ones is they're a little bit wider on the leg, so they make your leg look instantly slimmer. But they also mean you could tuck a trouser into those too. So they are a great kind of all-rounder boot, and yeah, they're just absolutely stunning.
And you've earrings and a bracelet here also.
Yes, so beautiful green jade and the pink agate earrings with these ones. So again, we want to bring a bit of colour to this muted look with the pink stone, and then the little bit of a green stone too. So it's tying in the colours in the dress, and then onto the bangle too. Isn't that just absolutely stunning with the blue agate again?
They're all very different. They're very different.
They are unique.
Lovely.
Yeah, and I think gifting pieces, if you are still looking for something different, you know, for someone who likes something unique, this is a great
you know
option.
what? Sometimes they are. They're just as handy to buy something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, unique and
Just
Irish as well, and an Irish small business is always good.
Oh, Ursula, this is lovely.
Yes, something a little bit more neutral on Ursula here with this gorgeous coat from On Trend. This one, of course, is sleeveless. They do it in a brown too. Great layering piece. It has all the warmth of, you know, your standard kind of coat, but obviously without the sleeve, so it's that little bit dressier. And yeah, we've layered that over this little beige off-the-shoulder top. So I do think if you're looking at a basic, this is a bit of an elevated basic in the top underneath.
Yes.
It's that little bit dressier. If she does take off the coat, you can see with the off-the-shoulder shape. I've tucked it into the high-waisted leather trousers. So we're really seeing leather trousers make a massive comeback this year. But this is the kind of 2022 style to wear them, which is the slightly flared culotte style.
They're lovely.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I love the shoes with them.
Aren't the shoes? They tie in
gorgeous
all
with
the
them.
colours, in the rest of the looks. We have the dipped patent toe on those two, and they are a beautiful leather shoe with a cushioned sole. They are going to be
very pretty woman type shoe, and the jewellery.
Yes. So onto this is a yellow agate stone on these ones, and I do think that these are going to just go with absolutely everything because the yellow contrasts so beautifully against the 18-karat gold plated in the earrings, and then the necklace as well, which is on the chunky chain, which is 18-karat gold plated too. I just think it's a stunning piece, together or worn separately.
Pretty, yeah. Fairly cool. Fair play to you. They're lovely.
looks.
I need to get those pants. Anyway, Justine King, thank you so much for that. Cheers.
Now, after the break, he's the Slovakian violinist who made Ireland his home. What is it? We'll be looking ahead at his Christmas concert in the 3 Arena very shortly. What's top? Now, from busking on Grafton Street to performing in Ireland's biggest indoor venue, violinist Vladimir Jablokov has had an amazing career so far. Before we chat to him, let's take a look at the musician in action. Amazing. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
I mean, your career, it's an amazing career because of how you started. Born in Bratislava, but your parents were musicians. But then from there, you just said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And you came to Ireland. You'd no money. You'd no English. Why Ireland?
It was the furthest point on the map in Europe.
He said, I need to get away.
Exactly, but I seen a couple of great shots of West Coast, you know, and that's as much research as I did. And I packed my backpack with fishing rod, tent, sleeping bag, and few things, you know, how am I going to survive in the wilderness? And when I arrived to O'Connell Street in Dublin, the scenery was a little bit different.
Very different to what it was, yeah. And I mean, and then how did you adjust to it then? Like, it must have been tough.
It was tough enough. Now, I have to say, I was 19.
Yeah.
I rebelled against everything my parents told me I'm supposed to do. So a week or 2 weeks into my adventure, will I ring them? I'm in trouble. And prove them right? No. So I had to try hard. And I seen a few buskers on Grafton Street, and I thought, okay, music is a universal language.
And then, like, you move and you start then, you gain, a lot of people get to notice you and you become more popular and popular in your stuff, and then you're touring with El Divo.
Yeah, well...
I mean, like, how does that happen?
You see, once I decided I want to do it,
yes.
and it was my decision, it's sort of, a lot of teenagers want to do their own decisions, even if it's not far off what their parents wanted or thought was best for them. It was in March, April 2005 when I built the first band, and that's where I could see the crowds were really gathering. People wanted, and I
This is while you were still busking, you put a band together, yeah.
And I immediately wanted to go further. I wanted to fill in the National Concert Hall.
And you speak at the National Concert Hall because that's the footage we saw there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is like, I suppose the nearest thing we'd probably get is like your Ireland's version of Andre Rieu or something like that. But it looks like that, it feels like that, the way you're doing it.
I was offered to do tribute to Andre Rieu so many times, but I never took it because I said my concerts has to be different and it's going to be Vladimir. It's not going
Vladimir.
to be Andre.
It's not Andre Rieu, it's Vladimir. And tell us, I mean, and you're taking this huge risk now. Well, it is a risk for any person. You've taken out the 3 Arena yourself and putting on a concert, and it's on the 18th of December at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, and this is your lifelong dream, just since you arrived in Dublin, was to perform in a big venue like this.
It was when I was there with Il Divo. And, I was just sort of...
You looked out at that,
and I looked at it like,
stage,
would I ever be able to fill it, and like what kind of even money or organising would go behind it.
So tell us what people are going to expect at that concert.
Oh, well, it's going to be the biggest and best show of all. So we are bringing full orchestra, about 45 players. We have
45.
Wonderful Arabla voices, choir. We have Viennese ballroom dancers, and then we have my family ensemble from Slovakia. And there is many surprises.
The very best of luck with it.
Thank you, Alan.
And we're going to hear and see some of your magic now because your wife Nicola and Adam on piano here is going to join you. You're going to do Santa Baby?
Yeah, she's one of the surprises of the night.
And Vladimir's Viennese Christmas takes to the 3 Arena stage on Sunday the 18th of December. Tickets available at ticketmaster.ie. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Thank you so much, Alan, and good morning to you.
And lads, what's coming up now?
Looking forward to that performance as well. Coming up very shortly, we're going to be hearing from Vladimir. We were talking earlier on about the most searched
top Google
Googles in 2022. Yes. Now, Sarah said I'd had to stop Googling my ailments, as any time I do, the internet tells me my days are numbered. This is one of them. Who knew a sore finger would be so dangerous?
Dr. Google is so bad. How about this? Megan says, this morning I started Googling something with what is, and the first suggestion finished with the point. Great start to a day. What is
the point of getting up?
Good morning, Megan.
In terms of recipes, they were saying that the most popular one was a porn star martini. Yeah, so Jane has just said, I checked my recently searched and they're all related to cocktails. So if I focus as much as this on my cooking, I'd be a master chef.
And Tom, I'd say if people were honest about their recent searches, you'd find how to survive Christmas with the in-laws, a common one. I am absolutely dreading it. Tom!
I was thinking whenever, because you know the way Spotify, they do like what you've Googled or what you've listened to all the way through the year. Imagine if Google had that. You wouldn't really want to know, really.
No, you wouldn't.
I think there's many people who would be like, no, I really don't want to tell my family what it is.
We were asking what time his top searches were, and you said you don't want to know.
He's cleared his search
all
history.
about cocktails.
Yeah. Now, on tomorrow's show, Nathan Carter chats to us about his new album.
Limerick hurler Barry Hennessy, he'll be opening up about battling an eating disorder.
And Brian Lloyd has a rundown of the best movies playing in the cinemas this weekend.
And hopefully we're going to talk about some Christmas movies as well, because I've watched some rotters recently.
Have you?
Yeah,
now,
really.
What's the Die Hard? I don't get Die Hard at Christmas.
Die Hard is a Christmas. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Ireland AM is back from 7 on Virgin Media 1.
But now, to close out the show, here is Vladimir with his rendition of Santa Baby. Baby. We'll see you tomorrow.
Santa baby, just slip a sable under the tree for me. Being an awfully good girl, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Santa baby, a 54 convertible too, like blue. I'll wait up for you, dear Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Think of all the fun I've missed. Think of all the fellas that I haven't kissed. Next year I'll be just as good if you check off my Christmas list. Santa baby, I want a yacht, and really that's not a lot. Being an angel all year, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Santa cutie, fill my stockings with the duplex and checks. Sign your ex on the line, Santa cutie, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Come and trim my Christmas tree with some decorations bought at Tiffany's. Santa, I believe in you. Let's see if you believe in me. Santa baby, forgot to mention one little thing, a ring. And I don't mean on the phone.